Hi everyone! Today I am going to be showing you how to make hand warmers. Um, it's really simple and it only takes about, I would say, an hour or an hour and a half to make a pair of these really awesome hand warmers. You can make them longer if you'd like, but I really like this length. It ends up going about um, 3 inches down your wrist, so about to here. Um, they're really comfortable. They'll be great for spring and even summer, I think. And yeah, they're just all around useful. You can wear them if you're laying in bed and you're reading a book, or you could just wear them as a fashion accessory, which is what I like to do. For this project, I am going to be using Red Heart Shimmer Yarn, and this is in hot pink. I really like the Red Heart Shimmer yarn because it's thin and it's soft, which makes it great for spring and summer because it's very breathable. But if you wanted to use something like Loops and Threads Impeccable or Vanna White, something that's a bit thicker than this, you will get some, well, warmer hand warmers. They'll be a bit more like gloves, so they'll be thicker. So I would suggest, if you're going to use them for spring or summer, I would suggest using a thinner yarn. And if you're going to be using them for like winter or fall to really keep your hands extra toasty, use a thicker yarn. So you're also going to need your tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. And then I'm going to be using a size I or 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. Of course, I'm using a webcam, so it doesn't focus. Yeah, you can use a smaller one if you want to, or a larger one if you want them bigger, but what I found that the 5.5 millimeter works the best for me. So to start the project, of course, you're going to do a slip knot. There are two simple ways that I like to do the slip knot. You can wrap it around your finger twice like this, and then take the back loop and pull it over the front loop, and then take the new back loop and pull it over the front loop, and then drop it off your finger and pull up, and that will create a slip knot. Or you can cross the short strand of the thread over the main strand, and then this loop that's around your finger, fold it over the main strand, and so you kind of get like a pretzel shape, and then pull the main strand through that loop, and that will create a slip knot. So the foundation of every project, the chain, or sometimes use the foundation stitch, but for this project we're going to be using a chain stitch. If you're going to be making these for a woman, I would suggest doing 28 chains, and if you're going to be making these for a man, I would suggest 30 chains, just to account for the difference in hand size. If you have smaller hands, if you have like smaller than, I'd say regular, I mean there's not really a regular hand size, but if you have petite hands, maybe try 27 chains, or 26 if 28 is too large. You'll be able to tell fairly quickly after a couple of rounds. So if you just do 28 chains and you find after a few rounds they're quite large on your wrist, now keep in mind there is going to be a bit of room in this area. It'll be more clingy up here. But if you find that there's a lot of room, I would go ahead and try less chains or more, depending. So since I'm making these for a woman, I'm going to do 28 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oops. I messed up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry about that. I got knotted up in my yarn. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Alright, now that you have your chain, you are going to slip stitch to your very first chain to create a ring. And you want to make sure that your ring is facing the same way. So you can see how my chains are going this way. I don't want to turn them and have the back of the chain connected. So an easy way to do that is to just have your chain lying flat like this, and then line it up, and then connect just like that to the front of the chain. So you get something like that. And then you can see that they're all facing the same way. And then you can just slip stitch as normal, which is just wrapping your yarn over and pulling through both loops without adding any extra yarn. And then you want to make sure that your chains are facing to the outside. As long as they're facing the same way, it doesn't matter where you slip stitch, as long as you slip stitch to the first chain. But you just want to make sure that they're facing outwards after you slip stitch, which you can easily do by just switching them around. Then I am going to start round 1. I am going to chain 1, and I am going to half double crochet in my slip stitch, which is just wrapping your yarn over once, going into the stitch, wrapping your yarn over again, pulling through, and you'll have 3 loops on your hook, wrapping your yarn over, and then pull through all 3. So I am going to do that in every chain around for a total of 28 half double crochets, and I will meet you at the beginning, or at the end. Okay, once you've done your 27 half double crochets, or 28, I'm sorry, or however many chains that you did, you want to have the same amount of half double crochets as you do chains, so in my case it's 28. You want to slip stitch to the first stitch, and the first stitch is going to be off to the side a little bit. It'll be right here, and you'll want to slip stitch into that first half double crochet you did. Just like that. Now this is where the extremely easy part comes in. You're going to chain 1, and once more, half double crochet in every stitch around for a total of 28. And you're going to do that for 14 more rows. So in total, including the very first half double crochet row you did, you will have 15 rows of half double crochet. So I will meet you back on the end of the 15th row. Just remember, do 28 half double crochets, or however many, to match the amount of chains that you chained, and then make sure you have 15 rows of half double crochet, and remember to slip stitch and chain 1 before your first half double crochet, and to do a half double crochet in your chain, or in your slip stitch space. So this counts as 1 is my foundation row, and this is row 2 that I'm working on now. So I'll meet you back at row 15. Okay, I am back, and I am on the last few stitches of my 15th row. So I am going to finish those. Should be 26, 20, oops, I went all the way through into another stitch. 27, 28, and then slip stitch to the beginning. And I'm going to pull that up just to show you. This is about what 15 rows should look like. And as you can see, I will lay this over the other. We are almost done. Now, next we are going to make the thumb hole. And to do that, what you are going to want to do... Well, first, if you want to make your hand cozy longer, I would add maybe 5 more rows. Just remember that you have to accommodate that this part of the sleeve is going to about here on your thumb. So it's going to be about that long, and I would probably recommend maybe 5 more rows to get it to here, and maybe 6 or 7, but I wouldn't recommend making it super duper long. But anyways, next we are going to make the thumb hole, and to do that, we are going to want to chain 1, and then do a half double crochet into the space that we slip stitched. Now we want to do another half double crochet in that same space to create an increase, and then we are going to do the same thing in the next space. Do 2 half double crochets into the next stitch for another increase. So now you have 2 increases. In the next 8 stitches, you want to do 1 half double crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, running out of yarn, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So just make sure we have 1 increase, 2 increase, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Alright. Now what we want to do, this is where it gets a little bit difficult, is we want to slip stitch to the first stitch in the increase. So the first stitch on the increase is going to be on the side of the stitch. So it's going to be right here. You would almost think it would be this one right up here, but it's actually right here along the side. So we're going to put our needle into that stitch and then wrap our yarn and slip stitch. So that creates our thumb. Now what we want to do is chain 1 and start and then do a half double crochet into the space that we slipped. Just like that. And then do a half double crochet in every stitch around for a total of 12. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and this is why this is the hard part, because it's such a close working space. 11, and 12. So now what we want to do is slip stitch into the first stitch, and then pull up a loop on our yarn. Now you want to make sure your slip stitch is nice and tight because you don't want any gaps. And you have now successfully created your thumb hole. Now I'm sure there's more conventional ways to do this, but this is the way that I have been doing it, and it works out very well, and it puts just a tiny, it doesn't even put a bump in the work with project. So I'm going to cut off a tail, and make sure you cut a long enough tail. Mine is about 5 inches. And then what I like to do is some people will pull the tail out through the top to secure the stitch, but what I like to do is create a knot by taking the tail and pulling it through the loop that we pulled up, and then pulling it through nice and snug. Just like that. So now we have our thumb. To create the part that is going to cover your fingers, what you're going to want to do is attach the yarn, and I like attaching the yarn right towards the edge over here. So you're working on it this way. I like to flip it over to have the thumb on the right side, and then I attach the yarn in about this stitch. And to attach the yarn, I just put my needle through the stitch, and then I slip the yarn through, and then I pull out a generous sized tail. I have to get a little bit more yarn off of my skein just to make this more convenient. So I pull out a generous sized tail, about 6 inches or so, and then I work a chain stitch, just like that. And then you can use your tail to pull it nice and snug, and then I pull up a loop a little bit, and then I work my half double crochet into that stitch. And I am working around this tail just to make sewing it in easier. And then I'm going to do a half double crochet in the next stitch, a half double crochet in the next stitch, and then just keep half double crocheting in your stitches until you get close to the thumb hole. I'm not going to cut, so I'll be able to show you when I get there, which will be very quickly. So that is 6 stitches. Seven, 8. So now when you get to the thumb hole, it's going to be a little bit hard to see, but what you want to do is there'll be a tight stitch right here where the thumb hole is. You want to do a half double crochet into that stitch. And then along the side of the thumb hole, there is going to be a couple of stitches. What you want to do is in this, I'm trying to get it to show, in this first stitch right here, you want to do a half double crochet. So do 1 half double crochet into this stitch, like that. There is going to be another stitch right next to that, and you want to do a half double crochet into that stitch. This is going to be a tough one to get into. Do a half double crochet into that stitch, and then there is one more stitch, and do a half double crochet into that stitch. So in total you're going to be doing 3 half double crochets along the thumb, and then just continue along the other side like so. Until you get back to your first stitch. Now it really doesn't matter how many stitches you put in the thumb. I think 3 is a good amount because it makes sure that there's not a gap. But if you do more or less, just make sure that you do the same amount and try to mimic what you did on those stitches along, or try to mimic what you did on those stitches on your other hand warmer as well, so that they are even. And now I am going to slip stitch into my first stitch here, and I have my first row done. Now when you do your first row, it's going to look a little bit funky right here, but what you're going to do is go ahead and do 5 more rows of half double crochet and you will be done. So I will be right back with the finished product. Okay, I'm on my last few stitches now, and I am about ready to be finished with my hand warmer. And this entire project should take you maybe 45 minutes or so. If you're newer at crochet, it could take as much as twice as long, really, if you're trying to figure it out. And I'm just going to slip stitch into my final stitch and pull up a loop. And so to make sure that you have the right number of rows, really you can make this as long as you want, but I like to have it go to about the knuckles. You're going to start from the first row of your thumb, and this counts as row 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. So you should have 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to create your hand. And this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you can see, they are, in fact, the same size. So all you need to do to make your other hand warmer is just literally follow these steps again, and all you have to do is flip it over. There's nothing really fancy about it. You just make 2 of the same hand warmer, and you can use it on both hands. So now what you're going to want to do is, once you've pulled up your loop, is once again cut off a generous tail, and then make your knot through the loop like that. Oops, I got a little bit of extra string. I am going to want to unknot that. And then just pull your knot nice and snug, like that. And you are finished. You just have to sew in your edges. So, to sew in your edges, you're going to want to turn your hand warmer inside out, just like this. And you might see a couple of threads sticking out just where I crocheted them in, like here and here. I'm just going to cut these, and I'm going to leave a couple centimeters of a tail to give it some wiggle room. And then to sew in the other threads, see, I'm going to sew them in on the other side since they're both on the other side. I'm just going to thread my tapestry needle. And what I like to do when I'm sewing them in is I do my best to stay in the stitches on this side so that it doesn't show through to the other side. And I don't mind if someone sees where I sewed it in, and chances are they're not going to be turning these inside out anyway. So I just sew it in a few inches, going through loops on the back, just like that. You can probably see that there's just a little ridge right here, but that's going to happen when you sew them in anyway through some stitches. And then I'm going to go in through a couple more stitches, like that. And pull it through. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through one of these stitches, like that. And then pull it through. And then before I pull it all the way through, I'm going to put my needle through that loop in order to make a knot. And then just knot it off like that. Then loosen it up. And then I'm going to cut I'm going to cut off my yarn and leave about 1 centimeter of yarn left over for some wiggle room if the knot loosens a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Just thread my yarn needle or my tapestry needle and then work my way through some stitches that are on the back side. Like that. And then I like to straighten out the knot at the top because when you thread it, sometimes it'll pull it down and then you'll get a little indentation, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to keep threading this through to about right here. Like that. Then I'm going to go back through one of these stitches. Just like that. And then pull through and create a knot. Just like that. And then, once again, I'm going to cut that and leave 1 centimeter or 2 of wiggle room. And I have sewn in all my ends. And then just turn your hand warmer right side out. The thumb is the hardest part. Just like that. And you are done. And then do that one more time, and you have a wonderful pair of hand warmers. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial and you found it helpful. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up so other people can see it. Feel free to share it with your friends on your Facebook wall or Twitter or anywhere you'd like to. And until next time, I will talk to you guys later. Bye! Have a good one!